Good afternoon, and welcome to the Big Show. The Big Show is always every single day we talk about whatever is going on in the world of sports, in the world of the Steelers, in the world of the Pirates, whatever. We try and get it all in. We always have a good time. Of course, we're brought to you by Archie's. Archie's on Carson Street. Get down to Archie's. Archie's home of 80-cent wings, Monday through Thursday. Home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's. Tell Archie I said hello when you're there. And, of course, as always, we are trying to basically break down the Steelers and see what happens this year. Now, one of the things that has gone on here recently, and I'll admit, I've started to become one of these guys that has basically tried to talk myself into Aaron Rodgers is going to be good. I've tried to talk myself into Aaron Rodgers is going to be better than people think. I've tried to talk myself into this Steelers team is going to be better than anybody really gives them credit for. I don't know why, but I just have, and I've been trying really hard to figure out why that is. What is it about this team that I'm starting to believe in when I really think, deep down in my heart, it's the same team that we've seen for the last 4 or 5 years, which is to say it's a team that's going to win, 9 games, 10 games maybe, and lose in the first round of the playoffs. The best path for them, however, to not lose in the first round of the playoffs would be to win the division, which they were on track for last year. And then, of course, they stumbled down the stretch and they weren't able to win the division. They had to go on and they had to go and basically play on the road. And as we know, it didn't work very well for them in the playoffs. I look at what they have this year and I say with Baltimore in their division, they're going to have to try and win 12 games, probably minimum, in order to win the division. I look at their schedule and I say, let's find 12 wins. Well, I'll tell you this much right now. If they are not 4-1 after their first 5 games, it's going to be a problem, if you ask me. It really is. If they're not 4-1 after their first 5 games, then I just think that maybe this team, we're going to be looking at probably a different season than all of us think of. Because 4-1, if you look at their games right out of the gate, they should beat the Jets. I don't care about Justin Fields and new coach and all that stuff. They should beat the Jets. They should win their home opener here against Seattle. If it was up there, it'd be different. But here against Seattle, they should win the game. Then they play the Patriots. Better win that game. You get the Vikings here. I'm willing to concede that maybe the Vikings would beat them. But you know what? It wouldn't shock me if they're 4-0 at that point. And then you get the Browns here. You want to tell me that either the Vikings or the Seahawks pick them off? Okay, fine. But 4-1 should be the minimum after 5 games, if not 5-0. You want to tell me you lose in Cincinnati the next week? Okay. You're 4-2. You come home against the Packers. I know the Packers have Jordan Love and all this other good stuff. Nevertheless, those next 2 weeks, the Packers and the Colts, you better at least split them, and I think they will. Now, all of a sudden, they're 6-2, 6-3 at the worst after 9 games. Then, you want to tell me you lose at the Chargers? Okay, let's give you 6-4. But you got the Bengals and the Bears back-to-back weeks. Bengals here, Bears. Now all of a sudden, to me, you're 8-4. You got the Bills and the Ravens on the road. You got the Bills. Let's say you lose those 2 even. You're still 8-6 after 14 games. After that, though, you got the Dolphins at the Lions, the Browns, and the Ravens. I don't know, man. I don't know if I necessarily see 12 wins there, but I see them going 4-2 in their division. I see them probably going at least 3-1 against the the NFC North. I mean, if you ask me, you got 6 games. What's that? 4-2. You got 7-3, I think, against the staple of your schedule. So, people ask me why I'm optimistic. Well, let's look at the defense. I think Derek Harmon is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a plug-and-play guy who you put in, who's a guy that probably is going to be, he's going to be a run stopper. He's a guy that's a mauler. He's a guy that is going to give them an element they have not ever really had, not for a while at least. He's going to give them somebody to complement Cam Hayward. I just don't think that people really fully understand the impact of him. I think he's going to be a run stopper for them, if nothing else. And if they can stop the run at a level that they can stop the run usually with, guess what? At that point, they're going to be really good on defense. And that, I look at mostly, for instance, Jalen Ramsey. The more I look at that move, what does that really do for the Steelers? What does that really do for the Steelers? I'll tell you what it does for the Steelers. It gives them the ability to cover receivers without a lot of help. Because you've got Joey Porter Jr., you've got Jalen Ramsey, and even now you've got your third guy who is, in my mind, going to be a pretty good slot corner, and that's Darius Slay. You should be able to play with one safety, which is what they're going to have to do a little bit because of, the fact that they got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But my point is, if you can stop the run up front without bringing a whole lot of extra help, if you've got a guy that's eating blocks up, and you've got a guy who is out there, just basically as a 3-down lineman, along with Cam Hayward, who, also has the ability to get after the passer a little bit. You win football. I don't care what anybody says. Here's the one thing I'm going to tell you. I get a kick out of all these analytics guys. I get a kick out of all these, spread offense guys. I get a kick out of all these guys who have all these theories about winning football and all this other good stuff. You know what? It's great. But the reality is you still win football games the way you used to win them. Regardless of how many different ways we want to call it, different offenses and different schemes, and we want to talk about, the high-tech passing game, the high-tech, exotic blitzes and all this other stuff. You win football games by winning up front on both sides of the ball, regardless of what you call it, regardless of what scheme you have, regardless of, how many different ways you have analytics telling you can do this or that or the other thing. Regardless, okay? Regardless, the reality of it all is this. If you can win up front on both sides of the ball, you win football games. If you can win up front on both sides of the ball, you win football games. That's something that really I don't understand why it's so hard for many people to understand that, because of all the different newfound, high-tech offenses, and this guy's brilliant and all this other stuff. You know what we found? Guys who cannot, or teams that, cannot block and cannot win the battle up front on defense, doesn't matter what their scheme is. So that's why I'm telling you I like the Steelers' chances a little bit this year, because I think for the first time in a while, they're going to win on both sides of the ball on at the line of scrimmage more than they're going to lose. And so their defensive line, to me, Keanu Benton is what he is, but I don't think he's terrible. But I think Derek Harmon is a wrecking crew. And, I feel like if you look at what they have inside at linebacker, they've got guys that are pretty good at stopping the run inside too. So, to me, I'm looking at what they have up front, and I'm saying, you know what? They have a shot. They have a shot. They really do. Now, I don't know necessarily if they're going to be dominant up front, but I do think they're going to be able to stop the run. I do think they're going to be able to stop the run, and if they can stop the run, and they can, defend teams with one safety and three corners, so to speak. Sort of a nickel package. That I think they have a chance to be really good on defense. We've talked about their defense for a long time and how it's going to be elite every single year. They spend all this money on defense, and sooner or later, it's going to be elite, right? I don't know if they'll be elite, but I think they'll be pretty good. And I think that goes to also winning the battle of the line of scrimmage on offense. Now, on offense, it takes a little bit of a leap of faith to get there. Okay? And what I mean by that is we are all sort of presuming that Broderick Jones is going to be a good player because he's moving to the left side, which is his natural position. Let's face it. I don't want to say the Steelers' entire season hinges on that, but the Steelers' season hinges largely on the fact that they need Broderick Jones to be pretty good. They need the fact that he's moving from the right side to the left side. They need him to be good. They need him to be really good. And I think that he's going to be better than he was last year. If you listen to what they said, coming out of OTAs and minicamp, and I know, I get it. It's football and underwear. I get it. It's not necessarily football. But everybody said he looks a lot more natural there. He looks a lot more comfortable there. He looks a lot more fluid there. So if that's the case, guess what? You put him there. If he's, let's say, better than average, you've already improved, because I think Dan Moore was probably average, if not worse than average. So you've already improved that spot. Isaac Seumalo is what he is. He's a really good player, and I don't think there's any question about that. He's really good at his position. I think Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick are going to be really good next to each other for a lot of years. Both of them are exactly what you want in offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen. They're maulers. They're, physical players. They're competitive as hell. Those are two guys that you probably are going to see at those two positions on the Steelers' offensive line for a number of years next to each other. And then another leap of faith we have to take is at right tackle, where Troy Fautanu, where we last seen him play, a long time ago because he got hurt. He hasn't played a lot. I'll concede that. We don't know what he's going to give you. We don't know how his injury is going to go. But I'm going to tell you this. He would look pretty good to me. He looked pretty good to me when it comes to when he played a little bit. I'm just going to tell you, that's the biggest thing. He looked the part when it came to, he looked the part when it came to a guy who could play right tackle. And I think that's the key to me. The key to me is if he's who we think he is, and Broderick Jones is who he thinks, at left tackle is who we think he is, this team has a chance. They have a chance because they can win at the line of scrimmage. And I think the other part of it is I'm not 110% sold yet on Jalen Warren as a featured back, but maybe some combination of Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. You look at it and you say, those two together maybe have an opportunity or have a chance to, behind a good offensive line, provide a consistent running game. Because that's been part of the problem for the Steelers as well. Some days they've looked like, well, we can really run the football, and other days they couldn't get it, 5 yards. They just couldn't run the ball. But all of that starts up front. So, a lot of my optimism when it comes to the Steelers is very simple. They probably are going to be better up front on both sides of the ball. Do I still think they need another receiver? Yeah, probably need another receiver. But they're not going to go get one. And when I say that, they might go get somebody like Tyler Boyd or, even Keenan Allen. I've heard his name thrown around, and some of these other – they might go get somebody like that, but you know what? They already have those guys. They already have those guys on the roster. Those guys aren't making the Steelers better. If they're going to go out and get a legitimate, receiver they're going to have to make a trade for, okay, I'll listen to that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I just don't. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the reality is that they are not going to be able to be able to go get a receiver that changes their team even a little bit. Tyler Boyd would just be another body that they've got. And again, that's not against him, but he's obviously his best days are behind him. They've already got Calvin Austin. They've got Robert Woods. They've got even Roman Wilson. They've got those kind of guys. They've already got them. So unless they're going to go get a real legitimate, receiver in his prime who's really going to change the trajectory of their receiver room, I don't know that any addition they're going to make at this point now is going to be that much of a difference. So now you've got Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth as two of your weapons, and you've got DK Metcalf and whoever the other receivers are, as it begins to shake out. But again, you have to ask yourself this. Is Aaron Rodgers better than Russell Wilson? Yes. I think he is. And I think he was last year. Again, people forget, down the stretch last year, 18, the number was 18. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the final 10 games for Aaron Rodgers. Quarterback play early on was the reason the Jets were losing. It wasn't late. I just think that, Aaron Rodgers played better as he seemed to get healthier and more comfortable. I think playing on grass will actually help him this year as well, too. So, to me, I think where we're at right now, it just is not going to be a situation of where I think you're going to get good quarterback play. I think they're going to have an opportunity probably to be pretty good in the passing game, even without a quote-unquote number 2 receiver. And that all stems back from the offensive line. So, again, it's not just about how good you are. It's about how good everybody else is. And the Steelers have closed the gap probably on the top teams in the AFC. I mean, I think if you look at the AFC right now, the 3 teams that seem to be constant right now, right, are pretty much the same teams that have been dominant the last couple of years. They are the Chiefs. Let's not forget about the Chiefs. I mean, it's funny. The Chiefs are the only people I know. The Chiefs are the only team I know, right, who basically lose a Super Bowl and everybody forgets about them. Like, they're already like, their dynasty's over. They were in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl. And so, I mean, they're still the best team in the AFC. So, I mean, I don't know what you really think about them, but the reality is they were in the Super Bowl. And since they were in the Super Bowl, you have to put them at the top because someone's got to beat them. And I said this the other day, and I don't think people fully understand this. Patrick Mahomes is 17-3. 17-3 in his last 20 playoff games. You've got to beat him. You've got to beat him. Period. So if that's the case, I got to be honest with you. You put them as the favorite. If they played the Steelers, okay. If you played the Steelers, then what would happen? I still think the Chiefs win. I mean, it's just one of those things that I look at and I basically say they have an opportunity, in my mind at least, they have an opportunity to basically, win a few playoff games, but they've got to avoid a couple of these teams. And one of the things that the Steelers really need to do desperately is figure out a way to win the division, to get a home game. Then you're playing against somebody who's completely different than if you have to go on the road. I mean, I think the best thing that could possibly happen for them is that they win the division, right? And they're like the 3 seed, and they get to play like the 6 seed, who let's just say is Denver or even, the Chargers or somebody. I mean, what they want to avoid is playing the Ravens first, right? And what they want to avoid is having to go to Buffalo or Kansas City. And the bottom line, if they win the division, they can pull that off. You say, well, how can they pull that off? Well, I think the Bills are going to be the number 1 seed this year. I feel like they're going to be the number 1 seed. I think the Chiefs will be the number 2 seed. I think the Steelers will be the 3 seed if they win the division. Okay? The 4 seed will be Houston because they'll win that garbage division they're in. Well, then you try and run it back a little bit, and you say the 5th seed are the Ravens. Right? The 6th seed, say, are the Chargers, and the 7th seed, say, Denver. Well, 3 plays 6. So, you have a situation of where the Steelers would play, who did I say, the Chargers? And then the 2 seed would be the Chiefs. They'd have to play Denver. It's been a weird matchup. Who knows? Either way, if the Steelers could avoid going to Kansas City or Buffalo in the first week of the playoffs, I think they have a chance to get to the AFC title game. And I think that once they get to the AFC title game, who knows? But I believe that you have to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and I don't know anybody that can do that. But the 3 teams that have been the best 3 teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, are still going to be there. They're still going to be there. Their teams are going to have to contend with and beat. I think a lot of people are going to pick the Chargers this year because, I think they still have a long way to go to rebuild their offensive line, and I still don't think they have enough weapons for the quarterback. Denver, to me, we'll see if Bo Nix was for real last year, if that was just fiction. And then the other team that people talk about, the Dolphins, I just think they're very overrated. I think their coach is very overrated. I think that their quarterback is way overrated. I mean, I'm just not a fan at all of that team. The intriguing team, I guess, is the Bengals. I don't know. I still think their defense is not going to be good enough. But you got Joe Burrow and those receivers. If they stay healthy, they can be pretty dynamic. But the reality of the situation is their defense stinks. I don't know that they made it much better this offseason. And I think that probably is going to be their undoing. The Browns are the Browns. I don't want to hear about the Browns. I mean, they've got a pretty good roster that has started over the last couple of years to fall apart. And, I think a quarterback is – I mean, when you're seriously talking about Joe Flacco being your quarterback, that tells me everything you need to know. The Jets stink. Patriots will be a little bit better because Vrabel is a better coach than, I can't even think of the guy's name that they just fired. But they're not good either. The Raiders are the Raiders. That whole AFC South, I mean, they all stink. Houston's good. The rest of those teams are bad. I'm just telling you, it's the same song, different, year, whatever you want to say, whatever that saying is. Steelers have to beat the Ravens. They have to beat the Bills. They have to beat the Chiefs. Those are the three teams ahead of them that are in front of them. And, it's funny, the Ravens should start to feel a little bit of heat because the Ravens, if you think about it, have the young franchise quarterback who's been winning MVPs. They've had everything in place. They've been a team that's had opportunities, and they cannot get back to the Super Bowl. I know that this is a very unpopular opinion, but if I were the Ravens, if they don't make the Super Bowl this year, I'd probably fire John Harbaugh. I might have fired him last year. That's just me. Go find a coach that's going to get you over the top. But they have a similar philosophy to the Steelers, which is, well, we're going to keep him in place because he's been good. We could do worse. Yeah, but you could do better as well. To me, losing teams or losing franchises or a loser's mentality is we could do worse. Teams that really want to win a championship say, yeah, but we could do better. Game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. Get down to Archie's. And when you're there, tell Archie I said hello. Let's switch gears here. Oneil Cruz was picked to go to the Home Run Derby. Yay! I mean, that is probably the Pirates in a nutshell. Honestly. Their star player, quote unquote, right? Their star player is a guy, who is, let's face it, a one-trick pony. I mean, he's a one-trick pony. That's all he is. He hits the ball hard. But here's the thing about it, a one-trick pony, guess what? He's 34th in home runs. I mean, if you're going to be a one-trick pony, at least do that. But that's not what's troubling to me about Oneil Cruz. Here's what's troubling to me about Oneil Cruz and all of the fawning people do over him because he hits the ball so hard. I remember when, he was hitting the ball at 110 mile an hour velocity or whatever the hell it is, exit velocity. And people like me were saying, yeah, but he strikes out all the time. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, but he strikes out all the time. He doesn't get hits. He hits the ball hard, and when it gets it, it goes out of the park. But when you look at it and figure it out, I mean, at the end of the day, think about this. He doesn't get hits. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about? Pirates aren't concerned that he's hitting 210. He's going to, figure it out. He'll be a 250 hitter, and you'll look like a fool. This is what everyone was telling us about 3 or 4 years ago. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? This is what they were telling us. And I kept saying, guess what? If he does not develop as a hitter, he's going to be Gregory Polanco 2.0, and here we are. He's a guy that's a shaky fielder at best, right? A shaky fielder at best. And he's a guy who has not developed even a little bit as a hitter. Period. End of discussion. So to me, when I look at it from that standpoint, I say this guy can go hitting the home run derby and Everybody will be excited because he's going to hit a couple balls, 295 mile an hour off his bat that are going to go 600 feet. It doesn't matter. All those numbers are ridiculously stupid to me. His OPS, are you ready for this? Your power hitter, your guy that, everybody's good. Your power hitter, his OPS is 103rd. Do you know who's 102nd? Andrew McCutchen. To me, Oneil Cruz needs to develop as a hitter. He needs to become a much better hitter than he is. I don't care that every so often he'll hit the ball 400, 500 feet or whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's 34th in home runs. 34th. So to me, I'm just telling you, I think that that this is a guy, this whole thing with him making the All-Star game and all that great stuff, it's wonderful. I'm not the All-Star game, the Home Run Derby. It's wonderful, but it's Pirates 101. Let's get hyped about something that does not matter.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.